How are we technically? I don't remember. No. Good evening, everybody. If you could please take your seats. Do we have an echo? I'm hearing an echo.
I think you're just loud.
You don't hear it?
I don't know.
Okay. This is the Ridgewood Village Council meeting, work session of January 31st, 2024. It is 7:34 p.m. and I'll call this meeting to order. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall, by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same, as provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Perrin.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Whites.
Here.
Councilmember Winograd.
Here.
And Mayor Vagianos is absent.
Please join me in a salute to our flag. Before we go to public comment, Mayor Vagianos asked me to read his newsletter regarding the closing of the Bowtie Cinemas. He writes, "As most of you have heard by now, yesterday marked the final performance of our beloved Warner Movie Theater in downtown Ridgewood. Losing this movie theater is truly one of the saddest days our central business district has ever experienced. We all know the reasons behind it. With the advent of streaming services, attendance has dwindled to a trickle. Consequently, it has become almost impossible for small movie theaters to survive in the digital age. The company that owns the theater had at one time 70 movie theater locations across the country. Today, they have only 2 theaters remaining. The Warner Theater opened in 1932 with a screening of The Dark Horse, a Bette Davis movie. At that time, the Warner was a grand and beautiful single auditorium movie theater. When my children were small, we made a pact that we would come to this theater to watch all the new James Bond movies when they came out. And for many years we did. The closing of this movie theater is truly the end of an era for us all that will create a void for our community that will be difficult to fill. I have had several discussions with the movie theater owners during the course of last week who have been incredibly forthcoming with the status of the theater going forward. Here's what we know. Deputy Mayor Pam Perrin and I met with representatives of the theater this past Friday morning, along with construction and fire officials from the village, to discuss taking down the partitioning walls that converted it into a four-screen theater decades ago. They will also be removing all of the seating in the theater and anything that is not part of the original 1932 theater. There will be no construction or installation of new seating, stages, or anything that would make it a functioning theater at this point. They anticipate beginning this work within the month and expect the project to take about 3 to 4 weeks. Once this demolition work is accomplished, the Warner Theater will be a single auditorium theater once again. The hope of the theater owners is to ultimately return the theater to its original grandeur by converting it into a performing arts center that will be both financially viable and of benefit to our community. And while they have already begun investigating this possibility, returning the theater to a single auditorium theater is the first step. Since the announcement of Warner's closing last week, I have had hundreds of calls, texts and emails from residents of our community offering to support the establishment of a performing arts center, as well as those who hope there is a way to save the movie theater. Let me begin by saying that we are less than a week into this process, and it is far too soon to know what the Warner will look like going forward. Just as importantly, it is important to understand that while the theater belongs to our community in so many ways, this is a privately owned business on private property. To that end, we will continue to work with the Warner to assist them in turning this theater that is such a central part of our community into a theater that will serve our village for another 100 years. Stay tuned. Paul Vagianos, Mayor of Village of Ridgewood. Another thing I would like to say today, we have received well over 10 communications from residents of Rainin Court about parking on their street. And we on the council actually were unaware of the change in parking there. What happened was someone in court challenged a ticket, and it turned out that there was no ordinance to support parking restriction on the south and west sides of Rainin Court. So our administration had to take down the signs, and that's when parking increased. And I have now polled every member of this council as to their desires for what should happen on Rainin Court. We are unanimous in the intention of restoring the parking restrictions on Rainin Court, particularly on both sides, and that would be no parking allowed September 1st through June 30th, Monday through Friday, 8 to 9:30, and 1 to 2:30. So that would be on both sides. You will go back to, we won't vote on this, well,
14th.
well, actually, I would like to speed up this process as much as possible because it is very disruptive to the residents of Rainin Court. And I'll ask the clerk, can we do this by a special public meeting on February 7th to introduce?
We could introduce then, and then also adopt on the 28th, which is our last meeting of the month. Is everyone here going to be in attendance that day?
On
Those 2 days?
I will be, certainly, yeah.
I will be.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, we
Yeah.
could do that.
And can I
If
suggest,
everyone's in agreement.
yeah, and can I suggest, Keith, that we get the signal folks to have the signs ready to go up as the day after we vote on it?
So the deputy mayor asked me about that today, and I
Right.
indicated that if there was consensus amongst the council tonight, I would ask Rich's crew down at Signal to start preparing them immediately. I wouldn't encourage us putting them up until the ordinance is adopted.
Yes,
But we
I'm
can,
saying-
but
I'm
we can
saying-
we can have them in the shop ready to go.
That's what I'm looking for, like, I literally will vote one night and put them up the next day, so we don't have any
It's
further
effective
delay.
20 days after
20 days
adoption.
after.
It's
Yeah,
20,
so-
20 days after, but we'll have them ready for the day that they need to be deployed.
That's what I'm asking. And I also want to thank the numerous Rainin Court residents that reached out to us, as well as the folks here that advised us of what had happened. And as Pam said, I know we're all in agreement on this, and I know it's probably a bit anticlimactic for everybody that showed up to have their voices heard, but we heard you loud and clear. We're moving as quickly as possible to get this done.
We apologize for the disruption. We'll go now to public comment.
Each person
Lim-
is limited to 3 minutes. Please state your name and address. Just a minute. Pull the microphone down, and then there's a button, and make sure the green light is on, okay? push the button on the microphone. Got it?
Like this? Can we start?
And then just speak into the microphone, okay?
Hello, everyone. I am Estelle Shimsky.
And I'm Sophie Zrelak. We are both 12 years old and go to George Washington Middle School.
You'll need to, I'm sorry, you need to be closer to the mic because we
lift it up.
can't hear you.
Lift it up.
There you go.
Restart. Hello, everyone. I am Estelle Shimsky.
And I'm Sophie Zrelak. We are both 12 years old and we both go to George Washington Middle School.
We are here today to talk about the issue of the theater closing. It has come to our attention that it is being changed, and we have a couple of things we would like to say.
First off, we do understand that it is private property, but we would still like to keep part of the space for a theater. We have evidence from the citizens themselves.
I'm sorry, you really have to get closer to the mic in order for everyone to hear you.
First off, we understand that it is private property, but we would still like to keep part of the theater.
I'm sorry, we're having technical difficulties with a reverberation.
It's the speakers on the computer in front of you.
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Can you
Is
turn them off?
Dylan, are you here?
Gabriella,
We just shut the speakers off.
could
on
you
the
help us?
computer?
The speakers on the laptop are reverberating?
You just gotta turn the speakers off on the laptop.
And girls, really use your outside voice. Okay? Not your inside voice. Let's use the outside voice.
Okay.
And we're going to
Sorry.
start from the beginning, okay? Start from the very beginning. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Estelle Shimsky.
And I am Sophie Zrelak. We are both 12 years old and both go to George Washington Middle School.
We are here today to talk about the issue of the theater closing. It has come to our attention that it is being changed, and we have a couple of things we would like to say.
First off, we do understand that it is private property, but we would still like to keep part of the space for a theater. We have evidence from the citizens themselves that will hopefully help change minds. We have a physical petition in hand of over 300 signatures that we've personally collected, signed by the people of this town who are in favor of the reopening and restoration of the theater.
We understand the financial viability of a movie theater is no longer possible. So our proposal is that we keep one floor of the movie theater and have it stay as a movie theater. The other floor could be changed permanently into whatever is wanted. During the day, when kids are at school, you can have people rent out the 2 movie theater rooms for whatever is desired. It can raise more money, and that money can go towards the company and purchasing new movies.
Not only is it convenient to have a movie theater right in town, but this theater is a part of our town's history, and getting rid of it would be like getting rid of that history. So please, on behalf of the people in this town, do not close the theater.
We ask you, the people who represent all of us, including the 70% of kids under the age of 15, to let us play a part in defining our town.
Thank you for your time, and remember, the public should always have the final word. As Roger W. Wiegard said,
Thank you, girls. Would you like to hand up to the clerk your petition?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sabina Avakian, and I was born and raised in Ridgewood. So was my dad. I am a second-generation Ridgewood girl. I go to George Washington Middle School, and one of my favorite memories of the theater is going to see the Taylor Swift Eras Tour movie a few months ago with my friends, and singing our lungs out because we were having so much fun. It was one of my favorite memories of this year, and having those moments with your friends is important. We know we can't retain the theater as it is now, but we would love Mayor Paul and the Village Council to advocate for us retaining the screens on the second floor as part of a new RPAC. We could use it for all types of screenings, film festivals, and events. I know so many other kids my age and adults feel this way too. I agree with Estelle S. and Sophie Z. on this important topic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jaya Suri, and I am a 7th grader at George Washington Middle School. I agree with Estelle S. and Sophie Z.'s statements about saving the movie theater. Here's my story. One of my favorite memories that I had in the Ridgewood Theater was when my grandma took me to see the new Mary Poppins movie. I was so excited to spend some time with my grandma, especially because she only comes to Ridgewood every few months. We had the best time. I felt so comfortable and warm in that little theater, watching one of my favorite movies. It is really sad and disappointing to hear that this theater is closing, especially because of how many people have such amazing memories over the years there. I understand that it's a difficult situation, but me and all of my friends here would be so grateful for anything we could do to save this theater. Thank you for listening to us. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
Hello. All right. Hello. I'm Jamie DeMala, and I'm a 13-year-old at GW. I agree with Estelle's and Sophie's statement about saving the movie theater. This is my story about the movie theater. One of my favorite memories of going to a movie theater was when me and 3 friends went to see the Barbie movie. It was a hot and midsummer day, preparing my Ken outfit, which people liked a lot. It was the perfect thing to do right after camp ended, and it was one of the highlights of that summer. We got to laugh a lot in that small theater, and it reminded us of what movies and friends were for. I've always loved that movie theater feeling of going outside right after an amazing movie that would change my perspective. It would suck if your movie theater closed, because we wouldn't find a place in town quite like it. I've always loved walking in town to see which 4 movies would be playing that night, just to text my friends about it. Your theater, even if it is small and forgetful for most people, was one of the places that meant a lot for me to go. And it should stay open, at least for 20 years. I don't know.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ditya Pamaluri. I am 13 years old and I go to GW Middle School. I agree with Estelle S. and Sophie Z. about
Ditya,
trying to
could
save
you
the
pull the mic closer to you, to yourself? Yeah, that's good.
Hi, my name is I agree with Estelle S. and Sophie Z. about trying to save the movie theater. This is the last story our group is presenting. The theater in town is an important part of downtown. I have lots of fun memories in that theater. My first memory of the theater was going to one of my friend's birthday parties. It was a very fun experience, and since then I've had many more great experiences there. I went to the Barbie movie with my friends. It was one of the best parts of my summer. I have many positive memories with my friends, waiting in the lobby, getting the tickets, and the movie itself, and the chatter about how good the movie was after we walked out of the theater. Those are all important memories associated with the theater. Whenever I go to town, I always like going to the theater to see the movies that they're playing. In my opinion, it's way more fun going into this theater than going to the AMC theater. And if the theater closed, going to other theaters wouldn't be same as going to the Ridgewood Theater. It would be awful if the theater closed. It's an important part of Ridgewood, and it's a source of happy memories for people. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Del Percio. I'm also very upset about the movie theater closing. I have a very fond memory of watching the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie there when I was a middle schooler at BF many, many years ago. You'd have to do the math to figure out how long ago that was. But I am here as the recently installed chairperson of the Central Business District Advisory Committee. I'm sure one of the things we will be thinking about very seriously in our upcoming meetings is the future of the theater downtown. But what I would like to talk about tonight is a white paper of recommendations that our committee prepared and I emailed to the council on January 24th. I'm here not only to encourage you to read our white paper, follow up with us or our amazing liaison from the council, Deputy Mayor Perrin, but I'd like to read the recommendations to you tonight. So they're on page 4 of the white paper when you go back and look at it. So the first recommendation, at this time, we don't think we should plan on closing any streets in the Central Business District for the 2024 summer season. However, we should continue promoting the Destination Ridgewood brand and programming from last summer, which was very successful, although our committee does note we'll have to figure out a way to fund that initiative. We think the venue or the location for the Destination Ridgewood events or anything related to that programming should be in and around the Van Ness Square area, which was, in our view, the focal point of what was successful about last summer's pedestrian plaza. We support the Village Council revisiting the dates for the dining corrals and perhaps extending them into the spring and the fall shoulder seasons. And also, we encourage the council to remain focused on how the village can help our restaurants improve the aesthetics of the corrals moving forward. And then finally, this summer, our committee is committed to continuing to engage with the Guild, the Chamber of Commerce, all of the other village stakeholders, solicit feedback on what isn't working, what might work moving forward in terms of programming with Destination Ridgewood and anything else that might come forward this summer. And finally, we will update these recommendations, this white paper, for the council moving forward at the conclusion of this summer, and we'll report back with some recommendations for how we think the plaza could take shape for 2025. So thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope you read the white paper, and good evening.
Thank you, Steve.
Dana Glazer, 61 Clinton Avenue. First off, as a filmmaker, as a film lover, as a film professor, I have to say thank you so much for coming out and speaking on behalf of the movie theater and how important movies are. And I think it'd be a wonderful thing if we could keep that theater going in some way. And I certainly, as a film lecturer, would be happy to donate some time to help with that process. Totally unrelated. I'm also talking as a resident of Clinton Avenue. So every weekday morning, I drive my 17-year-old to school, to high school. I drop him off at Brookside Avenue, and it's like Clinton Avenue, Brookside intersects with the high school. It's the main road leading straight to it. If you've ever driven your kids on Brookside at that time, it is fairly chaotic. There are cars double parked, teenagers climbing out between cars doing U-turns. I don't know what the situation, what the statistics are with accidents, but I suspect that there have been some. And so the idea of turning Clinton Avenue into a similar driving situation, but now with smaller children at risk, is a frightening thought for me and for the residents and for my wife. And that would certainly happen should sidewalks, even on one side, be installed. Because even with the best intentions, the street would no longer be closed, and parents would insist that the street be used for this type of chaotic drop-off and pickup. When my family and I moved to Clinton Avenue in 2008, the street was closed for vehicular traffic from 8 a.m. to 3:45 p.m., which gave a clear message to most drivers not to drive there. But around 2012, full-day kindergarten was instated, and so there was a rally to make it only in the morning and only in the afternoon for closure. And so that is what happened. And so we are concerned in the name of safety for that implementing sidewalks on our street would inevitably lead to the street being open full-time and Clinton Ave being transformed into a situation like that of Brookside. I know I can speak on behalf of all the residents of Clinton Avenue that safety is of the utmost importance, and that our street is odd in the sense that it is wide in some places and narrow in others, and there are trees along the sides. So in 2017, there was a major decision to not do this for that reason. There are unintended consequences for these sort of things, and I encourage the village council to really consider what those consequences might be. At the bottom of our street, in the intersection of Godwin and Clinton, there was repaving done over the summer, and now there's a big ice slick because it was done differently than had been done previously, and that's a dangerous situation. We don't want to have any more dangerous unintended consequences as a result of just going and sticking something in a place where it might not necessarily belong. Just one last thing to say is that for the last 75 years, there really has not been an issue or an incident involving a child or even an adult having a run-in with a car and getting hurt. And I think that should speak for something, so that you don't fix something that's not broken. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dana.
Bob Furman, 49 Clinton Avenue. I came here tonight to compliment the mayor on his State of the Village message. There was one section in there which really differentiates this council from a lot of others that I've been a resident since the late 80s. And I just want to read that. It's 3 sentences. Transparency is just a word people use. Communication puts transparency into action by actually getting people the information they need. The past year, we began a process getting information to our residents that has never been done before. Take you back to last spring, a council member fought very aggressively to make sure that all stakeholders over a particular issue be informed, included, and heard. That issue went on in front of this council for several months. Okay? Now, is that plus or minus? To me, it's kind of a plus. Everybody was informed and they were heard. Unfortunately, that same council member participated in 3 meetings in October, November, December regarding Clinton Avenue, and told the members that were there in one of those meetings not to inform the residents of the street. So therefore denying the rights of information to a large group of stakeholders. Now, just a reminder before the denial comes in, there are an average of 16 people at each one of those meetings, and unfortunately that council member was identified as the person who said that. So what I would suggest, Ms. Deputy Mayor, is you take a look to your left, to your right, and inform the mayor that someone clearly did not get his inclusive message. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Good evening. Rorick Hallaby, 1 Franklin Avenue. 3 items. West Glen, thanks to the signal department for putting up the blinking lights on West Glen and Oak. The lights are very noticeable and should hopefully slow traffic down. I'd like to suggest 2 solar-powered radar speed signs also be installed on West Glen heading east, one at Heights Road or near that area, and one closer to the railroad trestle. These 2 are highly noticeable and should slow traffic further. The second point is about a pedestrian safety master review by the Ridgewood Police Department and Engineering Department. A few months ago, I wrote to the village manager, the police chief, and the engineering department on the need of a basic, proactive, preemptive, strategic study of various pedestrian crossings in the village. I don't mean a study that takes place after an accident happens, but one that would be preemptive, if you will. The study should review, among other things, the difficult to maneuver by pedestrians of the traffic lights at Glen and Maple, the one at Franklin and Maple, and the one at Franklin and North Broad. And the last one, we need better lighting there, and I was wondering if anything has been done about the study. My last point is about the Central Business District street lighting. I wrote some time back, read the street lights in the Central Business District, and I'm pleased to say that many have been fixed, but the ones at North Broad and Franklin have not, and it'd be good to get a word as to what's happening there. My last point, which I just want mention is nothing pleases me more than to see these young people stand up, say their thing. Really, it just makes me so happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Rurik.
Good evening. My name is Leon Yagudaev. I live at 32 Chelsea Place. I actually have a pretty quick comment. We moved here 7 years ago, and from the get-go, I was actually quite shocked at the condition of the West South River Road. It has so many potholes, it looks like a road in Fallujah. So I've inquired a few times in the village engineer, got no answers. And I'm curious if it's ever going to be repaved, or at least repaired in a normal fashion. And the speed bumps probably should be installed, because people take off from Route 17 on the exit. It's dangerous. We have little kids there, a lot of little kids now in that neighborhood. People walk the dogs. There is no sidewalks. It's extremely, extremely dangerous, and I don't understand why it's happening until nobody seems to be doing anything about it. So I think it's pretty serious, urgent issue. I know it's kind of connected to what's next on the agenda with the Shedler property. I don't know if that's going to happen then, but it should happen, like,
Okay.
soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Nister. I live at 120 Highland Avenue. I have 3 lovely, energetic children and a crazy dog named Sammy. And I'm here today to also talk about Clinton Avenue. There's been discussion, and I'll just give a quick overview again. Clinton Avenue is a road between Godwin and West Ridgewood Avenue that pretty much dead ends into the elementary school, and then the other side dead ends into Godwin. There are signs at either end that express, you're not allowed to enter the street between these hours. It's generally between when the children go to school and come back. There is also a bit of a half-hearted effort. There's like a plastic barrier that covers half of it. This kind of superficially provides a sense of security and safety for children. They look at these symbols and they think I'm safe and I should be walking here, this is okay. The fact of the matter is that none of this is enforceable. They're all essentially deterrence as I understand it. The problem with deterrence, I suppose superficially on the high level, deterrence are great, but oftentimes the people that follow deterrence are all of you and I. We follow rules, we respect these things that we see. But if they're not enforceable, I think there was a mention of unintended consequences before, which is the only cars that go in there are commercial trucks, big box trucks, because they're cutting through, they're either doing deliveries, they're going to their next job. The majority of cars are large vehicles. Unintended consequences for sure, I think that's part of it. And once again, because nothing's enforceable, nobody's standing there writing tickets, they can't even if they were. They're just for show and giving a kid a false sense of security. I would challenge my 6-year-old who loves to run to understand the hierarchy of jurisdictions and who's in charge of what and what signs mean and what's enforceable. And this is a rule, but you don't actually have to follow it. It's just sort of there. I think there's a healthy discussion right now on what the solution is, but I think there needs to be something. And I think there are probably a few different viable solutions. But the main thing that seems to be pedestrian focused and the most safe are sidewalks. You can install speed bumps, things like that maybe slow people down, but I would like to think we want to think about pedestrians and get people walking as much as possible. I think that's a great thing to kind of instill in our children and ourselves. I think we should all be walking a lot more. Frankly, right now, I live like a half mile away from the school. I could tell all my neighbors, hey, let's just drive up there and park there, because we could. Nobody's going to give me a ticket. I'll just drive up there and we'll just park and we just won't walk. So we'll just use our car for a half-mile trip. Because frankly, the only sidewalked route is probably a mile long. So it's kind of, you know, it's not helpful. Alternatively, if it's purely, I'll be real quick.
Yeah.
Alternatively, if it's purely a money thing, take all the signs down, make it a through street, and then it's very clear to children that this is a street that cars are allowed to go on, and that's no problem. But as a lifelong runner myself, the most dangerous traffic laws are those that are not clear. They're not the strictest, they're not the loosest, it's those that aren't really clear or understood. And so I think there needs to be a lot more clarity, one way or the other. Right now, it's ambiguous, and everything is a bit of a show. People can go as they please.
Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
You know what? Before we go, we have, I guess, one more person to speak in person. We have 4 people lined up on remote. And I'll ask the council, do you want to waive the 40-minute limit so that we hear all these people?
Sure.
Okay.
Limit
All right.
to just the 4 and then Cynthia?
Yeah.
Great, yeah.
Mhm. So, Cynthia, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. Cynthia O'Keefe, 542 West Saddle River Road. I'd love to commend these young people for their passion about the theater. I too went there as a child. A lot of memories, and as they said, there is so much history attached to, you know, the theater and the passion that the people have to keep something as unique and precious as that in our community. That being said, I feel the same thing about the Shedler property, and that's the neighborhood that I live in. And there was a great article that came out. It was actually an ABC News article on the dangers of PFAS. And, you know, I don't know if everybody in this room knows that the Shedler neighbors are against the artificial turf and eco-turf that has been proposed for that multi-purpose field. You know, the neighbors did embrace an open space that, you know, young people and old alike can enjoy. They can walk their dogs, they can, you know, have a chat, sit on a bench. You know, unfortunately, what that property proposal has turned into is something that is not welcome in the neighborhood. And as the gentleman said earlier, the potholes and West Saddle, you know, we know that it's been earmarked for paving once the plans have been approved, but, you know, I'm sorry, that's just, you know, subpar. My suspension and everybody else in the neighborhood is probably getting ruined, which is unfortunate. So yes, we do have to deal with that on a daily basis. And so, you know, I'd like you to, you know, continually on a daily basis take into consideration the turf and the size of the field. I think it's unacceptable to the neighborhood. And I look forward to hearing about the soil contamination and what the situation is with the use of the house. I know, Shaban, you said you would invite the neighbors in as soon as there was a certificate of occupancy, and I hope that's still the case. And, you know, we would embrace, you know, people using the house for the right purpose, and, you know, I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation from the newcomers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cynthia. We'll go now to the online commenters. Susan, you're up. Still on mute. There you go.
Hi. Hello. Let me get my. All right, Susan Ruan, 705 Kingsbridge Lane. I want to thank the Village Council because I listened to the budget meeting, and Kingsbridge Lane as well as West Glen are streamlined for it, repair and installation. So thank you for trying to push them through as projects for next year. And it is very nice seeing the children and teens speaking about the movie theater. That is something that will leave a huge void in Ridgewood, and hopefully it'll be addressed. And I do agree with the resident from Chelsea Place about West Saddle River Road needing repaved. I know that's a sore subject to some people. But I do also agree with him that it should have a speed bump, because as soon as it is repaved, people will be speeding down that road, more so. I'm also calling in regard to I know I spoke about it at the budget meeting, but I want to emphasize about having some sort of maintenance done for all the waterways in Ridgewood, because I believe there is flooding issues that need to be addressed. And I don't think Blue Acres is going to be a simple solution for everyone. As I will point out, I have a friend who lives in Oakland. She's in a flood zone. She applied for Blue Acres because she was flooded for Hurricane Irene, and she was denied. So it's not going to, and it's not a simple solution. So there has to be some sort of long-term maintenance that needs to be done, and it has to be allocated in the budget, and it has to also be organized with the state and maybe the federal government. I know that everybody applauded the engineers, which they did a great job for working with so many agencies for repaving the roads. But this is, this is something else that they need to work with multiple agencies to do, because we're not gonna have any sustainable living homes if it's not addressed properly. And I don't think Blue Acres is gonna buy everybody out in Ridgewood that gets flooded. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Stanley Kukulka, you are up next.
Good evening, all, and thank you for your time. My name is Stan Kukulka. I live at 500 East Saddle River Road. I just wanted to address to Keith. I saw the portal about uploading pictures from past floods. I have no problem doing that. I'm just wondering, how is the DEP going to look at these pictures? And I also want to know, there is a easement on my property, and I've been back and forth with the engineer. I believe his name is Chris. That's on the tax map. It doesn't show there's an easement when there clearly is. I think the tax map is probably wrong or is not correct, 'cause it's showing it on the opposite side of the river. I'm inviting the council or the mayor to come out and see the problem we have when we get flooded. It's very painful for all of the residents here. Been here over 20 years. I just want to know what's being done. I see emergency services when there's a flood, but I don't see council members, mayor, helping the residents, assuring them that they're with us. Please help us. This is far too often, and we just can't do it anymore. We're still I'm still in the midst of remediation myself. Back and forth with insurance companies, getting, estimates on getting things fixed around my house. I just hope something can be done, and I hope my neighbors are with me on this as well. Thank you for your time, and I hope to speak to you and have you out here to see our issue as soon as possible. Thank you.
Stan, give us your address again. Oh, is he off already?
500.
Oh, you got it? Okay, because
I got it. 500 East Saddle River Road.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Monse Limon?
Hello, this is Luis Lopez, 494 East Saddle River Road. What I would like to do is just give my support to Suzanne and Stan. We're neighbors here in East Saddle River Road, and we also suffer from the multiple problems and things that we have to do in our house whenever there's just a forecast of heavy rain now. It's sufficient to upset our lives entirely. So we'll look forward to meeting the village manager and to learn more about what's possible to do to alleviate the situation that we're in. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina?
Christina Million, 530 West Saddle River Road. On September 28th, I was on an email with Councilmember Winograd, the village manager, and the village attorney. I had reached out on behalf of the neighbors at Shedler to ask about how residents can and should be included in the discussion around the organization that goes into the historic Zabriskie Shedler house and the future use of it. The neighborhood also has ideas for how the space should be used. And in that correspondence, I was told that a certificate of occupancy would need to be issued to further, quote, grow conversations about the future, unquote. Tonight, there is a proposal for the house, and I'm looking forward to hearing it. But I'd also like to know if a certificate of occupancy was issued, and also ask how this presentation is consistent with what residents were told. Thank you.
Christine CF.
Hi. Okay. Hi, Christine Fleischman, 518 East Saddle River Road. I'll be quick. It's commendable the young people advocating for the preservation of the theater. Kudos to them. Keith, want to thank you for visiting homes impacted by the flooding on the Saddle River. 14 families have signed up, and I know we're corresponding over email. I appreciate you and all the things you're trying to help the Saddle River residents with. Louis Stan, I'm at 518 East Saddle. And I just would like to say that I've been speaking with environmental engineers and doing a bit of my own research in trying to help find a solution. 27 years on the Saddle River, 3 floods, 6 water events in the last 3 months. PTSD is real, okay? But I would like to bring up the foundation damage that I'm now learning about, which is very common with reoccurring floods and repetitive flood areas. That's something now that I would also like to bring up in the future. And 2 suggestions made to me were a water basin and underground drainage. I understand the Army Corps of Engineers has been engaged. I know it's a process, but there are other towns that have done remediation, and there are things that we can still be looking at. So I hope that the council is on board to help its residents, not only on the Saddle River, but on all the waterways that impact our homes. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Christine. Our next commenter will, and last, will be Sandy B.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have just a couple of comments.
Well, your name and address first, please.
Okay. Well, 338 Queens Court.
Your last name?
Pardon?
Your last name?
Bartlett.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I had a couple of comments. One on West Saddle River Road. I know for a fact it was last paved over 30 years ago. My grandson was 3.5, and we went down and watched it every single day. And he just turned 34. So that's the time limit on that. The other thing is the Shedler property. And I don't know how many people are aware, but under the ground that was under all the new apartment buildings in Ridgewood on Broad Street and continuing was placed on Shedler. Dump truck after dump truck. Big rocks, little rocks, crushed rocks, garbage, etc. We had 2 car vehicle sales and repair shops on Broad Street, one of which we use, and the Amoco gas station was on Franklin. All the dirt under that is currently on Shedler. I was given guarantees by Susan that she had paperwork that proved that it was safe, but she never ever gave it to me. And it's hard to prove something that's infiltrated with gasoline and other chemicals can be considered safe. That's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will close public comment. Does anybody on the dais have something to respond that they want to say.
I want to say a couple things. Do you want to go first, Evan?
You go ahead, and then I'm just going to speak quickly, but please, Siobhan.
Okay, so although we're running late on time, I do want to congratulate the kids and say how GW Middle School proud I am of all of you. Fun fact, my grandmother's first movie was at Warner when it was a single theater. My mother's first movie was at Warner, and mine, and this is equally fun, when it was a duplex, because it wasn't always 4. So I'm really proud to see our school in action. I also want to do a shameless plug, and while Warner's closed now, the library does have media capabilities, and your parents are here. The library can be rented. They do movies at the library, and it's a unique opportunity for you guys to maybe partner with the municipal library, engage with Roberta Pangiwani, who runs Real Voices. If it's your birthday, get your parents to rent it and give the library some money. So we all feel for the community, for all of us. We are members of this community, and it's going to be a work in process, and everyone is deeply committed to making sure that this historic landmark is honored, and we do the best that we possibly can with the private property owner, but thank you. I also wanted to say, with respect to a couple of the comments, I want to thank CBDAC for the white paper and say how awesome it is, and I'm hoping, rather than have them come at public comment, maybe we can put them on the agenda next time, because the paper was so great, and I'm so grateful to that committee, and I feel like it was truncated into 3 minutes. And with respect to the light poles, because there's kids here, if you see a light out in town, what I would really love everybody to do is, all of the lampposts have numbers on them, report it and let us know. So we've taken lighting in the central business district seriously, and if we get self-report, we will fix it. And there was one more thing. That's it. I think I'll address the issues with newcomers in the presentation, and I just want to say thank you to everybody. It'll come to me in a minute.
Great. So I just, too, want to really thank all the kids and all the parents that came with the kids tonight. Anytime we get our kids involved in democracy and advocacy, you just make for a stronger community. I, too, agree. We really need to do something wonderful with that theater. We need to make sure that we get input from the public, which is why I think that petition is so valuable, so that we can really influence the developer and use whatever power we have on a private property owner to get them to do something that's conducive with what we all want. And I think the louder you guys are, the more often you show your faces and show how interested you are in that property, I think the more likely it is we're going to get what we need over there. So as a citizen, as a council member, I want to thank you all. On a personal note, I think my son is one of your classmates, and he's sitting at home right now watching TV while you guys are advocating for democracy. So me and my kid are going to have a little talk tonight about raising the bar a little bit. And so, guys, thank you for prompting that conversation.
I just want to say thank you as well. When my kids were your ages, they actually spoke at several council meetings and planning board meetings, and it brought back some really good memories for me, and I really know how difficult it is to get up there and speak, and you all did a great job. Thank you.
I'll say that everybody has a story about the Warner Theater and what the first movie they saw there was. Mine was Jiminy Cricket. And as you leave the room, turn over that piece of paper that's on the table, and if everybody would write down the first movie they saw there, I really look forward to reading it at the end of the meeting. And with that, we will...
Deputy Mayor, I have a couple comments on the public portion. First, to the gentleman who asked about West Saddle River Road and the resurfacing of that road. It is slated in our 2024 road resurfacing program. At our last council meeting, the Village Council introduced the ordinance. It'll be adopted in February. And then shortly after that, our engineering department will begin to roll out our resurfacing as the weather breaks in the spring. I can tell you that West Saddle River Road, I believe, I was not here for this decision, but I believe it was held back contingent upon whether or not there were going to be bump-ins for parking along the Shedler property. But regardless of the outcome of the SHPO application, that will ultimately be sent down to the state for consideration on that property, we have every intention of paving that street this year. So I wanted to make that clear. With regard to speed humps, that is something that I will need to talk to Chief Lyons at the police department We like to have a traffic study conducted to determine whether or not speed humps would be warranted on any street in the village, but that's certainly something that I can bring back to the chief and he can discuss with the traffic division. To Susan's comments about the waterways, we have had our Parks Department, in addition to our Public Works folks, out there clearing debris in both the Hohokus Brook and the Saddle River. That work effort is ongoing. As a matter of fact, Matt Andrula and his team were out there today meeting with some residents to try to determine access to be able to remove some debris in the waterways. With regard to the Blue Acres program, we have put that information out for public consumption. We've had at least 2 residents inquire, I believe one to my office and one through a council member, about the possibility of participating in the Blue Acres program. That is obviously a big decision for any property owner. You're asking the state to come in and essentially buy out your home with an intent to relocate. So obviously that decision is not for everyone, and I agree with Susan in her public comments, but we are sharing that information in case anyone in the village who has had a repetitive loss due to flooding is interested in pursuing that. With regard to Stan at 500 East Saddle River Road, Stan, I will be out there on Saturday. I'm meeting with the residents in that neighborhood. I believe at this point we have 13 or 14 homes to visit that morning and afternoon, so we can certainly add your address to that list so that we can come by and get a better understanding of what your flood experience has been. I'll talk more about the portal under the manager's report. With regard to Christina, we do not have a certificate of occupancy on the Zabriskie house as of yet. The only thing that is pending is approval by SHPO to utilize the existing gravel area as a temporary parking area until the future of that property is decided, and the installation of a stone dust pathway between the parking area and the ADA accessible ramp. Both of those initiatives need to be approved by SHPO, and Tony Merlino, our construction official, cannot issue the certificate of occupancy until such time as those 2 work efforts are completed. I'll have Councilwoman Winograd, when we get to the presentation, talk about the discussions that have been ongoing with newcomers, but just to be clear, no one has been in the house, including any representatives from newcomers, to inspect the space because we still are pending a certificate of occupancy. To Christina, again, I will be out there on Saturday, looking forward to meeting with the residents out there on East Saddle River Road to take a look at the flooding conditions. And lastly, to Ms. Bartlett, she mentioned one of the agenda items that's on for tonight, which is some soil testing on the Shedler property. She is correct. There was soil testing prior to that soil being removed from 4 different locations, both in and out of the village between 2016 and 2021. That relocation of the dirt was done under prior administration, and it was in fact tested. At this juncture, the DEP is looking for some additional testing, and that will be considered by the village council this evening.
Keith, would you like to continue with the manager's report?
Thank you. First of all, very pleased to report that S&P Global has sustained Ridgewood's AAA bond rating. We received that news late Friday afternoon, and I want to congratulate Bob Rooney from our Chief Financial Officer and our team in finance for their continued work in making sure that the long-term financial outlook for the village is strong. Secondly, Rich Calby, who's with us tonight, our Director of Operations and Director of Ridgewood Water, has recently sent out letters to those individuals with private wells. Specifically, letters have been sent to residents in the Shedler neighborhood who have private wells. We are encouraging any residents who are interested in considering hooking up directly to Ridgewood Water and in essence abandoning their private well to reach out to Director Calby to further that conversation. We've heard at many council meetings over the last number of months that there is a concern with regard to well water and the potential development of that property, and this may be a viable option to abate some of those fears. We also launched over the last 2 days the flood portal. I want to thank Neil Gallone in our GIS division under Ridgewood Water, who put together the portal with the support of our IT department here at the village. We are encouraging all residents who have been impacted by residential flooding to please submit pictures and descriptions and further information about the damage that they have sustained over various flood events. For each specific flood event, residents can upload 5 pictures, 1 video, and put descriptions into the portal so that we can collect all of that data and share it with the Army Corps of Engineers. I will tell you that the more submissions we get, that will strengthen our case as we further our discussions with the Army Corps to ensure that we can try to get some state and federal intervention when it comes to flooding here in Ridgewood. And this is very important on the residential side. I cannot stress it enough. This week, we also put out information about the continuance of the Veterans Banners program for anyone who is interested in sponsoring a Veterans Banner to be hung in the CBD from Memorial Day to Veterans Day. Please visit our website, go under the Spotlight section, and you can download the form to be able to apply for a Veterans Banner. The village calendar has been delivered to residential homes. I also want to mention that it is available at 2 locations on our website, both under the Spotlight section and also the Residents tab at the top of the website. There is a downloadable link to the village calendar, the printed village calendar. We started our budget meetings this past Monday, spoke to a number of our departments, and we'll continue our budget schedule this coming Monday. That meeting begins at 5 p.m. I also want to thank Sean Hamlin and his team at Sanitation. 2 leased sanitation trucks were delivered on Friday to the village. Once everything is registered with DMV and the insurance is extended to those 2 trucks, you will see them out there on the street collecting garbage in the coming weeks. And lastly, I want to mention that Clinton Avenue, we had a productive meeting with the residents and some of the parents who were concerned about pedestrian safety in that area. We will have a second meeting with those groups on February 8th at 7 p.m. So I just wanted to make sure that all the residents of Clinton Avenue and any other interested parties are aware of that date. Just a few announcements. First of all, the reminder that garbage pickup during snow and ice events. If it is snowing when you leave your home in the morning, or if it's icy, we ask that you place your garbage cans at the end of your driveway so that our village staff has a clear path to them. We appreciate everyone's efforts in that regard to keep our employees safe. Jamboree is preparing to set sail for an unforgettable voyage on February 8th, 9th, and 10th. This year's show is entitled Smooth Sailing. For 3 nights only, cruise with us as we journey far away from our beloved Ridgewood to inspiring new destinations. I want to congratulate Jamboree. It's their 78th year, counting 1947 as year 1 of this endeavor. February is American Heart Month. Join the Valley Health System, our Ridgewood Health Department, and our Parks and Recreation Department for a conversation about women's health on Thursday, February 15th at 10:30 a.m. here at Village Hall on the first level. Please register through Community Pass, and the senior bus will also run and make transportation available. The reservations can be made through the village manager's office. All village offices and departments will be closed on February 11th and February 19th in observation of Lincoln's birthday and President's Day. There will be no garbage or recycling pickup, and the recycling center will be closed on both days. Please check the village calendar for garbage and recycling pickups for these 2 weeks, as they will change due to the holidays. We also encourage you to sign up for the Recycling Coach app, which will remind you about changes to garbage or recycling pickup during the week. Upcoming village council meetings. February 7th is our work session at 7:30. February 14th, we'll be celebrating Valentine's Day together as our public meeting at 7:30. And February 28th is our work session at 7:30.
I just wanted to mention it's February 12th and February 19th.
Oh,
I think
I'm
you said
sorry. Typo. February 12th and February 19th will be closed. That's all I have, Deputy Mayor.
And the Clinton Avenue meeting, where and when is that?
It's February 8th, 7 p.m. at the lower level in the senior lounge.
Senior Lounge?
Yes.
Okay. And Evan, would you like to give a council report?
Yeah, I'll be brief. I know we did a lot of speaking sort of out of turn tonight, so there are only 2 topics I just want to hit upon really quickly. First, wanted to thank you, Keith, Bob, all the Department heads, I think we had a great start to the budget. Looking forward to the next budget session. Really would encourage folks to turn out. I know we usually get a nice audience for these meetings. I think amongst the most consequential work we do is that budget, and we don't get a lot of folks that show up. So I'd really encourage people to show up, make comments, and really watch how we do what we do. But again, it's run really well, and thank you, Keith, for that. Also do want to reiterate Keith's comments on the AAA bond rating. It's one of those things that's incredibly boring, doesn't actually get much notice, but is incredibly important when we borrow money and keeping our taxes down. It is a huge win for us and a real vote of confidence for good government in Ridgewood that the street is giving us a AAA rating on our bonds. Again, super boring, but super, super important. What's not boring and what is important, on February 10th, Ridgewood Arts Council will be sponsoring a cookie decorating contest at Paris Baguette from 1 to 3. It's up on a couple different websites. I'm going to encourage people, especially with kids, to think about coming out. It's free. Ridgewood Arts Council is really doing some great work, and I look forward to decorating and then eating some of the winning cookies on the 10th.
Siobhan.
Sure. So I have several things to report. So last Friday, we met with Access, and we were very pleased to welcome Paul Aronson, who works as the state advocating for disabilities. It was a great discussion, and the Access Committee was very excited to have him. And we also decided that we were going to invite at our next meeting, which is open, police and fire, because 2 of our firemen have taken specific training as to how to handle autistic respondents, and the fire department and the police department are going to come and partner with the Access community because rates of autism within our own Access committee are high. I also want to thank Jamie Davis, who hosted the 3rd sensory-friendly dinner. It was very successful. I was not there. I was traveling, but thank you to Mayor Paul, who attended. And there will be, at this point, this has been so successful, it's a monthly occurrence. So we will be releasing the next one soon. But thank you to Main Street for always supporting the Access group. And thank you for Jamie Davis and all the members of council who have showed up and supported this. I'm equally as pleased to say that we had a meeting, the village manager and the Board of Ed, and we are going to be restoring the end of the year celebrations for 5th and 8th grade at Graydon Pool. This was collaborative between Parks and Rec, Keith's office, and the Board of Ed and the HSAs. So I want to say thank you to PRC, Keith, and the Board of Ed and the HSA members who made that happen. That's big. You know, again, it's a year, but we are moving more and more in terms of recreation away from COVID. Today I had a meeting with our Pride Committee for Pride Day. The official day will be June 1st. Our committee is actively working. We're creating artwork, and Deputy Mayor Perrins helping us again. If anybody has any ideas or wants to be involved, these meetings are on Zoom, and you can just let me know, but we are working, and we're very excited to our 2 new members, Christine and Larissa. And then I have some very exciting news. As many of you know, and several of you have attended, particularly Pam, who's worked the event. In 2016, before I was on the council, I was a small part of creating the Elder Dinner, which offers a Thanksgiving meal for elder senior members of our community who don't have access to it. It's a chance to celebrate. Old Paramus Church generously donates their space, and the program has grown, and it's great. And our Parks and Rec Representative Deanna Shablik nominated us, and we won the Daniel M. Gesselberty Recreation Programming Award. I want to thank everybody, and I don't like doing the roll call because inadvertently I leave everybody off, but big shout out to Health Barn, the Kapoor family who always donates in loving memory of their father, and they donate that because they wanted to see their donation in action. And of course, Reverend Miller, our Parks Department, and Aging in Place. So this is huge, and I'm really proud of them. They will be having a service, and I hope the whole council and the community joins me in saying congratulations to them. And lastly, you may be seeing this, this is preliminary, but it's very exciting. This is a street sign, and that is the street that the high school's on, which is why we generated. Last year, logistically and economically, we sustained a significant amount of theft on street signs. And it is a crime to steal it. It shouldn't be done. Heather has told me we've offered amnesty programs, and it ends up being a big burden on our signal department. It's a cost to the taxpayer, and it's really unacceptable. So we were trying to get creative, and the fun story is that one of the kissing balls fell in a snowbank, and I had to go pick it up, and I went to Signal. And so what we're going to proactively do is partner with the charity at the school, and we're going to make them to order. And we've involved the police, and they will be marked, so we will know if you have this mark on it, it's not stolen property. And we're going to be promoting it. And I want to thank the Signal Department, and I'm going to, even though he's not here, Chris was super excited about this. I wanted to show the council, and because we can't meet, I just wanted to show everybody here. It's not exclusive to the high school or the schools, so if you are a longstanding resident, there'll be the ability to buy it. And I'm just very pleased because as we're in budget season, everything counts, and this will, prevent property crime, and it will help promote something, and I know many kids will want this up in their dorm room. So stay tuned for details, but I just wanted to show everybody, and it's pretty cool, right?
Cool. What's the little R mean?
That is, so one of the things when we involve the police is that, so like if I have this and I stole it, the police need to make sure they can say, you stole that. So this R is to say that it was a replication made. We are working, we may end up putting the high school cupola here, something, but we have to distinguish it because I'm in possession of it, and if like the cops came into my house for whatever reason they came and it was there, I could be charged with stealing it unless it was distinguished.
So is it only Hearman's Place, or
No,
could we
no,
we
no.
could request any street?
I was like thinking, should I put Maple? But then I didn't want to do that, for Village Hall, because we're collaborating. So that's the street that the high school's on.
But it is only, people can only purchase the Hearman's.
No.
Oh.
You can do John Street, you
Oh,
can do
okay.
Windermere.
That was my question.
I just didn't want to put like Ivy, one, because my street address is so boring. And then I figured I'd just give a nod to the fact that we're running it through the school. And it's also a long street address, so we can see placement.
Okay, thanks.
That's it, and that's my council report.
Lorraine, your council
Thanks.
report.
Thanks, Pam.
Yeah.
Citizen Safety Advisory Committee had a meeting on January 18th. More site triangle notices had been sent out since our previous meeting in December, and 3 more residences have come into compliance. So that's good news. I appreciate anybody who acts upon a notice that they get that their corner, it has a site obstruction, and to trim their hedges or cut back things. We really appreciate you doing that. There were a discussion about lighting in the CBD. It had been previously reported in September that there were 22 street light outages. In December, there were 14 reported, but most of those are new outages. So PSE&G is saying they fixed almost all 22 street lights. And Rorik, we will find out about the light that you were talking about. I will ask them. The CSEC liaison to the CBDAC committee reported that CBDAC feels that the lights in the downtown should be warmer for a better ambiance. But Sergeant Ward at the CSEC committee said the brighter lights make for a safer pedestrian environment. So unfortunately, we're not going to have a better ambiance. We're going to have better visibility for the pedestrians. At a previous meeting, a committee member felt that the stop lines at Garber Square and West Ridgewood Avenue, as you're approaching from the underpass, were too close to the crosswalk, and she felt that she really couldn't see pedestrians in the crosswalk because the line to stop was so far up. So that was looked at by engineering, and they did agree. So the stop line will be moved back about 5 feet to allow better visibility to see residents crossing, or to see anybody crossing in the crosswalk. We discussed the meeting held regarding possible solutions for the intersection of Oak and Glen Avenue. I reported those solutions being worked on at our previous council meeting, and I will follow up, and hopefully we will have a better outcome at the intersection of Oak and Glen, where we have many, many accidents. We discussed briefly the rule to remove snow and ice from sidewalks and walkways. Ridgewood has a rule that within 24 hours of the snow or ice event ending, you have to clear your sidewalks and your walkways. If you see a property that doesn't do this and you want to, make a complaint, call the police will address it. I think they will really only address it if they got a complaint. They're not going to drive around and look for people that haven't shoveled. But if somebody calls, they will go talk to that person. The next CSAC meeting is Thursday, February 15th. As you heard from Keith, there was a meeting on January 23rd to discuss safety issues on Clinton Avenue. Since September, the police department has received many concerns regarding Clinton Avenue. At the meeting, the chief of police was there, along with 4 other members of the Ridgewood Police Department, a member of the engineering department, our village manager, a member from the BOE, several members from the CSAC committee, and several residents of Clinton Avenue, as well as some parents whose children use Clinton Avenue to walk to school. The police department provided detailed analysis and recommended that sidewalks are the safest option. This was also echoed by the engineering department. This is consistent with Ridgewood's Safe Routes to School initiative, as well as Ridgewood's Complete Streets program that we have adopted. There was a robust and very respectful conversation between all of the residents. I believe everybody wants the same outcome, safety. Several residents of Clinton Avenue were unable to make the meeting, so a second meeting has been scheduled for Thursday, February 8th at 7 p.m. in the senior lounge, and the discussion will continue. Since that meeting, village staff has met with the manager to discuss all of the options that were talked about that night. Participants at the meeting requested that the village provide visual representation of all the potential options, which were painted sidewalk, lanes, so just, painting actually in the street to make a sidewalk where the kids should walk, sidewalks on 2 sides of the street, and sidewalks on 1 side of the street. This will help facilitate the conversation at the February 8th meeting. The police department requested that Clinton Avenue residents provide a list of any municipalities that have these painted sidewalk lanes, as they had put it in a letter that some towns do this, and our police department is unaware of what towns might be doing it, so they wanted to know, and that they will contact those police departments and see how it works out. Participants also requested the police department ask the village attorney to get clarity with the current signs that are there. I've spoke with Matt Rogers, he's checking into that, and I'm sure he will have something to report by the meeting. I also want to echo what Evan said about the budget meetings, that please come. I mean, these meetings are so important. This is where we decide where your tax dollars are going to be spent. So let us know. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see. It's important for us to know. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Okay, I'm going to go through these as fast as possible because we're running a little late. The library is now open on both floors. Their renovation is nearly finished. They still have some shelving to do. The elevator is in operation to get from floor to floor, but the stairwell is not open yet. Our Special Improvement District Steering Committee has been meeting and exploring what their mission should be and goals, et cetera, et cetera. Green Ridgewood last night had a really interesting meeting. We brought in facilitators for what's called a climate fresque, and we really learned a lot. It's set up as a game, but it is very challenging, and even those of us who do a lot of reading learned things we never knew before. The Open Space Committee also has met recently, and we finished scheduling the park walks that we will be conducting in the spring, summer, and fall. The Parks and Recreation Conservation Board met, and I filled in for Siobhan Winograd because she was out, and we had a report from Stacy Antine at the Health Barn as to what her program is about. The Central Business District Advisory Committee will meet on the second Thursday of this month via Zoom at 8:30 in the morning. We do have a lighting subcommittee, and they are looking into whether the lights downtown, the lamp posts downtown, actually meet the recommendations of our master plan in terms of kelvins and brightness, safety, and that sort of thing. On Friday night, I attended the Friends of Music concert at GW. It was all local talent, people you know, and they were just so wonderful. The voices were terrific. The musicians were really astounding, and if you can catch one of their concerts in the future, do so. I attended the grand opening of Book Nook, which is a new shop on Cottage Place. They are enhancing literacy for kids 18 months old to 12 years old. There's nothing else like this in Ridgewood. It was so interesting to see how they encourage kids to love reading. There are nooks. They have 3 or 4 nooks where kids get together and are guided through books that are appropriate for them, but layering on music and play and toys and movement. It's just a wonderful program. They are changing their name soon to Wise Wonder, so keep a lookout for that. And that's, oh no, one more thing. With regard to Blue Acres, the DEP is conducting presentations so that homeowners who have been flooded can find out what the requirements are for eligibility, and they are having in-person meetings February 1st at 5:30, 25 Lenox Avenue in Pompton Lakes, and then on February 8th at 5:30, 1 Memorial Drive in Lodi, and then there will be a virtual option on February 15th at 6:30 via Microsoft Teams, and you can register on the DEP website using the QR code. This is downstairs in the lobby. On the table, you can find one of these flyers that has the QR code. And that's all I have for now, and we will go to the report by Justine Kaufman, who's been very patient. Oh, wait, did you want to say something first?
Sure. So, Deputy Mayor, thank you. We have one presentation on the agenda tonight. This is Ridgewood newcomers and the potential for them to use the Zabriskie Shedler House as a home. Newcomers reached out to us, and we were able to have a preliminary meeting with them. As I mentioned tonight, we are still awaiting approval from SHPO to do those final touches on the outside of the house so that we can be issued the certificate of occupancy and invite the public in to view the space. But at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Councilwoman Winograd, who was involved in this conversation.
Sure. So thank you. You get like an A+ for waiting. I just want to reiterate some things almost so we're all on the same page. In order for us to have any real meaningful conversation about what goes in the house, we have to engage SHPO. This is simply a conversation so the full council can be aware of an expressed interest. We have not talked to SHPO, and we have not discussed it. We can't discuss it except here in the workshop, so it's a discussion. There were several things. If anybody wants the copy of the letter that newcomers wrote us, it's in the sunshine binder. If anybody wants an email copy after we discuss it tonight, don't bother opening it. You can just write us and we'll send it to you. But Ironically, I've known newcomers. I was a newcomer at one point, and they're a wonderful organization that's here in Ridgewood, and they do a lot. And when I was running a social media platform about our underutilized space in the Central Business District, and the old taxi cab station came up, I engaged in some conversations. The conversation of all our underutilized space led to some discussion of Shedler. They crafted us a letter that shows their interest, and I'm going to let Justine speak to the letter. But I just want to be clear, no one's been in the house. The way that newcomers took the tour was the video tour that I posted on social media. I sent to the organization. They've been following it. There's no commitment. We haven't discussed money or lease. Matt has not been engaged. And at this point, just so everyone, this is a discussion and an idea, and we're very grateful that you waited all this time tonight, and we're very grateful for the letter. So if you come up, Justine, and just speak about how you see it fitting and some of the ideas.
Hi, I'm Justine Kaufman, as many of you guys know me, and my husband, very involved in Ridgewood downtown and Ridgewood community. We both grew up here. I found myself back on Newcomers with my second child. I have one 9-year-old and one 2-year-old. So I found myself back on Newcomers as a second newcomer, twice around, to just kind of, meet new people and engage in the community again. So they asked me to actually be the community liaison for newcomers, so that's how I found my role here. And the discussions that we had, that I got looped into with the taxi stand, they had wanted a space, and the newcomers don't have any sort of a space. We used to be part of the YMCA, which many people know, for years, and now it's their own their own 501c3. So they're not affiliated with the YMCA anymore. That being said, many members host, events or gatherings at their house. They use the community to host events. But the discussion to have something more permanent, similar to like the chamber has a space, wouldn't it be great if newcomers could also have a space? We want to encourage many people to join newcomers, not just feel like only newcomers can join. We want it to feel like a neighborhood and a newcomers place. And over the years too, there's been all different types of groups within the newcomers. Family-friendly activities, book groups, empty nesters, and empty nesters in particular started breaking off into their own group because they didn't have, a space to gather, and they felt like newcomers was only with young members. So they are actually meeting at the Dayton a lot. My mom's there. They meet over there. So again, it was just kind of came out of a synergy of feeling like, where can we find a space that brings the community together, the newcomers together, where we can kind of have activities that range from family fun stuff to book club stuff to empty nester stuff to people that are interested in, just getting together and not at someone's house and not feeling obligated to host events, but where can we go? And that's where the Shedler, when it was kind of thrown at us, a lot of people, have to be honest, were like, what Shedler? Where's Shedler? I think when we're here, everyone is like, it's a lot, that everyone knows it, but outside of this, a lot of people are like, where's Shedler? So again, I felt like this would be a good use for the newcomers to expand, our footprint also in Ridgewood, and not just say, okay, it's just the downtown, it's just at like, these newcomers' homes, but this is a part of Ridgewood, and just the synergy of the history of Shedler and the history of newcomers, we felt like it would be a good fit but like Siobhan and Keith said, I've not seen the place myself inside. I saw the video, and I was like, okay, trust you guys. You think it's good, much better than the taxi stand, so let me take a shot and see if it's something that works for us and for the town, so.
And are we considering, like, they would have exclusive use of the house, or they'd be one of several uses? Like, what's the thinking, or is it still evolving?
My main reason is to hear what you guys are thinking about the concept. We don't know, we haven't discussed anything. It was just to begin the conversation. One thing that Justine left out that I think is very cool when we were having the discussion is that Newcomer runs an event. If you buy a house, you can, through the Historical Society. So Newcomers partners with the Historical Society. And if you buy a house and it's like 123 Hermann's Place, you can go and they run the certificate and they tell you all the owners and they give you the history. And it's revenue generating and it ties not only like a longstanding meeting and gathering Ridgewood organization, but they have that historical element. So I felt, you know, we've been having all these discussions about what we're going to do, how it's going to be, you know, who's going to maintain it, how we're going to look at it. And I just thought this was a unique idea because I couldn't sell them on the taxi cab stand. And I do think that, to Justine's point, you know, when the park is developed, the house, you know, for younger people, it's got a playground. It's got things that can be used there. It's for, you know, the empty nesters, it's going to have a walking path. And it just seemed like a very nice fit. Because there's such heightened sensitivity about the project and the house, I felt like it was wise to have this discussion out front here. I also think we all met with Sarah from Hub Quarters about non-traditional uses, and this is a non-traditional use. So that's it. I don't really, this isn't going to move to a vote. It's just a discussion. It's a way to engage the neighbors, let people think about it, let it marinate, and that was
also,
all
like I
it.
said, I mean, newcomers, anybody can join newcomers. So anyone that, you know, if this does turn into a thing and they say newcomers is a great fit for the Shedler, then great. Join newcomers. If you want to be involved with how we would use this space and what kind of events we would have there, we would welcome anyone in the community to join, you know, newcomers. I definitely encourage that. I've even tried to rebrand it as newcomers, new neighbors, because we do want to have people feel like someone like myself. You can join newcomers at any time. It's a place to just connect again,
So I would recommend to the council next steps. Let me get an idea from Chris Rudishauser as to where we stand with the SHPO application. It's been submitted. We're pending approval down there. So once we know that, if we are approved, we can start that work effort. And then Tony Merlino from our construction office can issue the CO. And then at that point, I think it's imperative that we get folks in there to be able to see the space in its finished state. I think there's one punch list item that's left from Conley and Hickey. It's actually light fixtures, so it's really of no consequence. So the only thing that's pending is the approval from SHPO for the ADA accessibility.
So I'm just curious, has there ever been a maximum occupancy?
I believe it's 49.
49.
It's 49.
Okay. All right. And how many members are in newcomers? I would assume a lot more than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have 150, you know, give or take, because it's like, you know, a family could be like a family of 4, but there's really
Right.
1 or 2 members.
So
that are
when you
members.
have events, do you typically limit the number?
Well, obviously, depending on the space. Like as Siobhan had said, we had hosted the Historical Society event at the Schoolhouse Museum. So obviously, you guys have been there. That's super tiny. We had to limit the event. And that was such a successful event because people could give their address. The Historical Society would look up your address and give you a little certificate about the history of the house. But we had to limit it, 30 people or whatever it was. I think it was even less, maybe 20, because they were having an exhibit there at that time. You can only fit a certain amount of people. So we were like, how wonderful would that be to host an event? We could, essentially
Okay.
have
So
more
you think you
people.
can work with that number?
Yeah, definitely. We're having a gala, in a few weeks, and, even with that, because of the ticket prices, like 50 to 60 people that go to that. So most of these events, we do try to encourage a little bit smaller, intimate events, because again, you want to be able to meet with people and actually have conversations, and when they get too big, we all know, you don't get to really talk to everybody. So
Okay, thank
whatever
you.
the space restrictions are, we'll, adhere to.
I love the idea of newcomers and neighbors.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many of the events that you're putting on, and I thought, oh, well, I'm not allowed to go.
Right.
So I would love to
But-
participate.
Yes, and then again, that's part of our, hopefully rebranding and, having a community space like this, I think will help us too. I always say a lot of people that are members right now are like in the Willard and Ridge district, and I'm like, where are all the Hawes moms or the Travell mom? There's just, even within our own little, newcomers community, it gets a little bit, even smaller, and we want to also expand our reach, to people.
So I'm definitely interested in having the conversation. I'd love to get them in there, see if it works for them, and then I'm sure we'll have 1,000 more questions on both sides. But definitely encourage, and thank you, Siobhan, for bringing this up. I've been very loud and outspoken about we need to do something with the house, and especially because, you know, we're going to continue to incur costs in terms of just electricity, heat, making sure it doesn't fall into disrepair. So we got to find something to do with the house. This sounds on first reading like a really good synergy, but want to keep the conversation going. Would be interested to know, again, would it just be them exclusively, or would they have it when they have events, but we could open up for other things? Because I do want to make sure we get as much use out of our investment in that property as is possible. But this could definitely be part of the solution, and really appreciate you coming and speaking to us and again, having the conversation.
And through you, Deputy Mayor, it's my intention, Councilman, to host some sort of open house, like on a weekend, as the weather breaks and we have the certificate of occupancy in place, so that, you know, people throughout Ridgewood, not necessarily with an intent to want to occupy the space, but people can come in and see what, you know, what the investment that has been made in this house over time, you know, what the fruits of that are. So, you know, we plan to conduct something like that in the spring.
It's a great idea. I mean, people, as you've heard me say it before, they paid for it, they should see it. And again, I've been in the house, and I think there'll be a lot of folks who'll be surprised in terms of the way it's laid out and what we actually got for our money. But again, strongly encourage that we have an open house event so people can see what we got.
Thank you, Justine.
Thank you so much. Thank you for waiting,
Yes,
too.
of course. Thank you.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, under our agenda items tonight for our work session, we're going to start off with a number of items from Ridgewood Water. I'd like to invite up Director Calby to walk the council through those requests.
Good evening. Quite a few number of items tonight to kick off the year for service contracts that are required for the utility, and a couple of carryover items from the prior year. So please bear with me as I go through each one, and please ask any questions that you have. The first item, 9A1, this is an additional award for our polyorthophosphate chemical that's used for corrosion control. This additional award is for the 23 service contract, which had an original contract amount of $185,000. That was a not to exceed. We went over that. We underestimated the amount of chemical for the year, so an additional $12,086.98 is required to complete that purchase for 23. And that is with the company ESC Environmental, and this funding comes out of the water utility operating budget.
Any questions?
Next.
I
Oh,
just
sure.
did want to say, this
Yes.
clearly demonstrates how expensive chemicals have become. We were talking about this at the budget meeting, and here it is. And then you explained to me why we needed this additional expenditure, and perhaps you could do the same for the public.
Yes. So this chemical is necessary to prevent lead and copper corrosion throughout the system. It's added to every gallon of water that gets distributed for the system. At the beginning of the year, when we award the contract, it's a unit price contract. We pay by the gallonage or pound that they use to produce the chemical. We make an assumption based on the number of gallons that we believe are going to need for the year, but of course, that can never be exact. So for the year, we did underestimate it by the amount of $12,000 and change.
Thank you.
Now, forthcoming will be the contract for 24. We'll probably see that in the next meeting or two for this year.
Okay.
Next item is 9A2. This was an emergency that occurred at our 20 treatment facility. Emergency was declared by the utility and approved by the village manager and village CFO. It took some time to get the media replacement for this emergency. It did actually arrive today. This was for our two PAC towers that exist at the 20 treatment facility. These are for the treatment of volatile organic compounds. They've existed at the facility since 1990. The media has a life about 20 to 30 years, so we got in excess of that out of this media, and it's due for replacement. So we're doing not just the one tower that failed, but both towers. So it's an emergency purchase in the amount of $132,450 to the company PAC2 LLC. They'll replace the media in both towers at the 20 facility. This funding is also out of the water operating budget.
Any questions?
Next item is 9A3. This is an annual contract for the servicing and repair of electric at our Ridgewood Water facilities. This is by a licensed electrician. This is an annual contract that we rely on every year for repairs and replacements. On the last contract that ended in December of '23, we bid it out and opened bids on January 4th. There was one bidder, Venora Electric, Inc. Venora has been a successful contractor on this service in the past, so we're recommending award to them first year of a 2-year contract. It will be a not to exceed of $250,000, but it's billed at the unit prices for their hourly service and parts based on what work they do. And this is also out of the water utility operating budget.
Nothing? Okay. Let's go on. Thank you.
Thank you. 9A4 is the other complement to this service, is our annual contract for servicing of repair and replacement of wells and pumping facilities. These are things like well rehabilitation, replacement of well pumps, cleaning wells, replacing pumps at pump station and transfer stations throughout the system. This contract also ended in '23. This was bid out, and we opened bids on January 4th. Again, one bidder, Williams Stodoff Company. This is also the firm that was utilized in the last contract year. They've been very successful. We're recommending them for this contract year 1 of 2. This will be a not to exceed of $500,000 per year, again, based on unit prices for hourly work, equipment, and materials, based on the work that's completed. And this is also out of the water utility operating budget.
No questions?
Nope.
Okay.
9A5, this is awarding year 2 of a contract that was awarded last year for PFAS laboratory services. This is the laboratory service that we rely on for all testing of PFAS at all our wells and points of entry or treatment facilities. Pace Analytical Services is the company that was awarded the 2-year contract last year. So we're recommending, again, an additional year 2 at $82,000, not to exceed, based on the schedule of costs that were in the bid. You know, it's a price per test based on the contaminant for PFAS. This is also out of the water utility operating budget.
And in another couple of years, you anticipate that we'll be able to do this in-house?
Our hope is to propose that. The equipment is very expensive, so we'll have to do a full cost of benefit analysis, but that is our goal, to bring it in-house. We'll have better quality control and speed up getting the results.
Thank you. Any questions?
9A6, this is another award of year 2 of a contract. This is for tree maintenance services, so this is for tree pruning, tree removal at all Ridgewood Water properties throughout all 4 municipalities in the service area. Awarding year 2 recommendation of Downs Tree Service in a not to exceed amount of $80,000. This contract also has unit prices for the work, time and materials, so they're only paid for the work that's done. This funding also come out of the water utility operating budget.
I have one question. Because your property's separate, do you retree it, or does that come from us when you take these down?
No, that's paid for out of the utility.
Okay. And when you do this, if they come down, are you putting new ones back in?
Not one for one. It depends on it's usually done with a project that's then happening at the site.
Okay.
If we're putting a new facility up, we provide landscaping.
Thanks.
Thank you. 9A7, this is award of year 2 of the 2-year contract for our cold water meter and accessory supplies. This is strictly buying the materials. These are the water meters that go in all the homes, water meters that we use throughout our system to meter the water that's pumped from the wells and pumping facilities. This is through Rio Supply. All the meters are installed by our personnel. It's a not to exceed amount of $213,634.41. And this is, again, unit prices based on the size of meter and materials that we purchase, and funding out of the water utility operating budget. 9A8, award year 2 of 2 for laboratory analysis. This is for all other contaminants exclusive of PFAS testing. These are for contaminants that we are not certified to test in-house. VOCs is one of those chemicals that are providing this contract, but we are getting the ability to do that in-house very soon, so this will be reduced in the future. This recommendation is to Pace Analytical Services. It's a not to exceed of $179,640. This is out of the water operating budget, and again, this will only be paid as, billed according to the contaminants that are tested for on a monthly basis.
Okay?
Getting close. 9A9, this is award of the billing and data collection services. This was a 3-year contract, recommending award of year 3, the final year of the contract to Computel, Inc. This is for all the bills that are prepared and mailed out to every water consumer throughout the 4 towns. It also includes the platform that our customer service department utilizes to maintain all the data for customer complaints, requests, history of all their billing. It's a not to exceed of $320,096, funding out of the water operating budget.
I think we're good.
9A10, this is a award through the Sourcewell Cooperative Contract. This is, again, is an annual contract that we recommend. It's for the purchase for generator maintenance, inspection, and repair, recommending an annual award for 2024 not to exceed of $42,176.15 to Cummins, Inc. Cummins has been the contractor for the last 2 years. They maintain our 14 auxiliary generators. They come yearly to do inspection, make recommendation on necessary repairs, also test the fuel when necessary to make sure it's not spoiled or if it needs any additives. Recommending this award funding out of the water operating budget.
Yep.
Last one is 9A11. This is our annual hydrogeological services. This is with a licensed firm that can provide hydrogeological services for the utility. They've done so for decades. The firm is WSP USA, not to exceed of $109,000. This is everything from submitting permits for well modifications, doing tests on wells to determine if their yield is reduced and then we need to do further cleaning on it, various other tasks associated with groundwater monitoring, contaminants, et cetera, involved with the aquifer. This is also funding out of the water operating budget.
Thank you.
The next 2 items, these are recommendations from the village CFO. I'm happy to run through them and answer any questions as best as I can. 9A12 is the annual payment from the utility to the village for land taxes for the properties that are operated and owned by the water utility. So in front of you have a total land assessment, and then there's a tax that's paid. It's for 24, it's $127,242.52. So any questions on that? And the last item is just the 9813, is the annual codification of the interest rates and penalties for consumers that do not pay their bills on time. It states the penalty based on the amount that is delinquent, interest, and then an extra penalty if there's outstanding delinquency in excess of $10,000 for any account. So any questions on that?
18% is pretty high. Is that what we usually do, or is that standard?
That's standard.
Statutory? All right.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor, if I may just add a bit of information. The utility is doing work on the PSE&G right-of-way. We're continuing our project to rehabilitate and replace the 20-inch trunk line that runs through both Glen Rock and the Village of Ridgewood up the PSE&G right-of-way along the old trolley line. We completed a project last year that ran from East Glen Avenue down to about the high school sports field. We're now doing a project from there down to about 100 feet south of Spring Avenue. Notices have gone out to the local residences. We're actually meeting tomorrow with PSE&G to discuss some findings that we have along the area. But I bring it up because it includes about 100 feet on the Dunham Trail where we need to replace a main. We are going to be photographing the area before there's any disturbance. We're making notice out to the adjoining properties. It's going to be about a week's worth of time that small portion of the trail will be closed, but we'll be fully restoring the dirt path back to its original state after we're finished.
Do any of those big sycamores have to come down?
We're trying not to remove any trees.
Okay.
That's
Take all the Japanese knotweed you want.
You could tag that and flag it for us.
And through you, Deputy Mayor, we have had some phone calls into the office. I think Rich spoke to one of the residents that we referred to them today, that had some concerns about restoration, and Ridgewood Water is fully committed to restoring that property as they make this improvement. In addition to that, we've had direct communication with the folks at the high school on this, so their communications team has also put this out so that we can keep everybody safe during the construction project.
Definitely, that's our goal. And additionally, the further southern part of Dunham Trail is marked out, so people may see blue flags. We're not doing any work there yet. We marked it out because we got a very good tip relative to the erosion that's occurring on the stream, and we want to make sure that there's not going to be any effect on that portion of the water main. So if you see the flags on that part of Dunham Trail, we're not going down that area. We're just sticking to about 100 feet. That's just south of Spring Avenue. That's the extent of the project. So, all right. Any
Is
other
that what the
questions?
trucks were on Spring Street today for?
They're out there continuing doing the monitoring. We're actually going to go out there and survey what we mark out and then do a comparison to see how things have changed. There's quite a bit of erosion if you haven't been over there lately. Mr. Rogers lives in the local area. He's pointed out some of it to us as well, thankfully. So,
The road was Spring Avenue was closed in one direction for 1 or 2 blocks. How long do you
that was
anticipate
saw
that'll-
cutting as part of the same job that's being done.
So how long do you think that road will need to be closed?
In Spring Avenue, that I couldn't give you an exact
Okay.
time frame. I just know that the Dunham Trail work is a priority, and that it's 100 feet. It should be less than a week, but I'm saying a week to be conservative. But there'll be signs up, warning people, to stay out of that area.
Thank you.
I do just want to say this because Dunham Trail is part of our park system, and for everybody on the council who hasn't been over there, I was really surprised to see the erosion, and the path is sort of split, and I have to talk about it, Seamus the dog, and it got so steep at one point, you're like, I hope he doesn't go over there. So if you've never walked it before, it's an opportunity. Dunham Trail is a treasure, but the erosion is concerning, and people, when you go, particularly if the whole council, everybody on lunch hour walk down it, you'll see it right away.
Yeah.
And you go to Spring, and then head towards Grove, and then come back on the right-of-way and look across, and you'll be able to see it. And don't drive your car there, because there's really no place to park.
And be careful as you look along the banks of the stream, because some areas are undermined. It might not be visible to you along the path, but underneath where you could be standing could be undermined.
I've been worried about that for a while. Dr. Dunham was a teacher in the school system, and I had her in the 2nd grade.
I love when I call Pam, and I'm like, do you know who Dunham was? And she always knows, which is great.
All right, thank you.
Anything else for Rich?
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, next on the agenda is under parking, is the Rainin Court. I think that decision's essentially already been made. There's a consensus of council to move forward. Heather, you just want to review the dates that we would introduce and adopt?
Sure, so we would introduce on February 7th at a special public meeting during the work session, and then our second work session in February is the 28th. So we would do a special public meeting during that work session for adoption, and then it's 20 days from that date that it can be enacted.
So mid-March.
But that saves us a good 3 weeks, I think. So
Very
thank
good.
you for that.
And I do just want to thank Heather in the clerk's office, because I know after the last meeting, you put this all together for us, and thank you for compiling it and taking all the information from the citizens. I'm sure it wasn't easy, but it was much appreciated.
Yeah.
Okay, and then under budget tonight, we have the award of contract under the Somerset County Cooperative Purchasing System for a Solar Tech Message Board. This is what Dawn had been intending to purchase for the police department through the Ridgewood Health Department grant. Total amount, $27,091.60. We're going to purchase one message board through the grant.
I'm just not quite clear. Is it a matching grant, or is it 100% grant money that will be used to purchase the boards?
I believe it's 100% to purchase the board.
Nice.
All right. The next item on the agenda is to award a contract for soil investigation for the berm at the Shedler property. As I mentioned earlier, following public comment, the New Jersey DEP has requested that the village conduct additional investigation into the soils imported for the construction of the berm. This was done obviously under prior administration. All of the testing results that we received from 2016 through 2021 have been sent to the DEP, and there is a letter attached asking us to do some additional soil testing. So I've authorized Chris Rudishauser to solicit some proposals. We received two. One was from Matrix in the amount of $38,330. The other one was from VHB in the amount of $59,522. And Chris is recommending the award of contract to Matrix to conduct the New Jersey DEP requested soil investigation as soon as possible.
And where's the money for this coming from? Is this coming from the general?
Coming from the Shedler bond.
It's coming from the Shedler bond, okay.
Okay. Okay, items 3 through 9 are all finance housekeeping items. The first is award of contract for the annual maintenance for software for the finance department. That's to Edmonds and Associates. Number 4 is the establishment of the interest rate for delinquent taxes and non-payment of assessments and other municipal liens for '24, and to set a grace period for a due date, sort of emulating the same resolution that will be passed for water. 5 is to establish interest rates for delinquent payments for significant sewer discharge bills for 2024. Number 6 is to authorize the mailing of estimated 2024 third quarter tax bills. It has been history here in the village, after talking to Bob, that we do estimated tax bills here in Ridgewood. 7 is to authorize the electronic tax sale. 8 is to authorize the cancellation of tax overpayments and delinquent accounts. And 9 is to authorize the tax collector to charge for mailing of tax sale notices. Again, all housekeeping items under the Finance Department. That concludes my portion of the agenda, Deputy Mayor.
If no one has any questions, we'll go back to public comment. Do we have any public commenters here in the courtroom? If not,
We got somebody.
okay.
Michelle Italia.
Could you get a little closer to the mic and
Yes,
repeat your
okay,
name and
thank you.
address?
Michelle Italia, 3 Betty Court, Ridgewood.
Is it on? Do you see the green light?
Green light? No, the green light's not, oh, green light is on, right? Can you hear me now?
Pull it, yeah, that's better. Pull it
Okay.
towards you.
Towards me, perfect. All right, I don't project well. I just had a question in reference to the soil test that's being done. What's the difference between, in making the decision between the two individual or companies that you are using? For my own benefit, I'd like to know, how did you come to the conclusion of choosing one over the other as far as soil testing is concerned? Is this company, both company, sharing the same items that they are examining? Is there something special about one company? Do they go extensively over it or not?
So both companies have extensive experience doing this type of soil testing. We sent the document that we received from the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection to actually 3 companies, I believe. Only 2 chose to submit proposals, and they submitted proposals based on what the DEP requirements were. In this case, we are selecting the less costly proposal.
That's okay. I just wanted to
But
know if...
they were all given the same documentation in order to
documentation.
develop their proposal, yes.
Okay, that makes it clear for me and understanding it.
Sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Anyone else here in the courtroom?
Hi, Patty Infantino, 6 Betty Court. I got up here before, but I think many of the things were answered. Keith answered many of the issues that I was thinking about. First of all, I wanted to thank all the young people for speaking up. And I was so stricken and heartbroken after hearing that the Warner Theater, after 92 years, was going to be defunct. And I was also concerned about West Saddle River Road. I had always heard that it was I thought it was a county road, and I thought that's why it was so miserable. And when the mayor had his letter go out and say how pleased he was with everything that he had done with all the Ridgewood roads, and I bumped my whole way home on West Saddle River Road, which is a mess. So that road was just abandoned, but you said you're going to be looking after, and it's not a county road.
No, it's not a county.
No,
West Saddle
okay.
River Road is not.
Okay, so I was misinformed. So in the end, once there's a certificate of occupancy on the Shedler house, we might have an open house, and we might have an opportunity all to get to see how it's been restored. I saw it before it was restored, so I'd love to see how it's going. And then you can get more, creative about your thinking about what we can do. Yeah, I think those were my main issues. Were the usual, the Shedler issue. How do we know what's in the berm? How do we know that it's safe and for the kids to play there?
Thank you, Patty.
Patty, I hope you got those kids to sign up for the league.
What was that? I didn't hear.
I said Patty is a longstanding voter service member of the League of Women Voters, and whenever she sees activism, she typically recruits them. So I'm hoping all those 7th graders have been signed up and are going to be at the next registration.
Gotcha. Okay. Cynthia O'Keefe, 542 West Saddle River Road. So I just, sitting here listening, I'm just a little curious about two things. The Grubb, I guess it's Grubb Associates who did the archaeological survey. If we're talking about like environmental and soil that maybe was potentially dumped there, I don't know where this dirt came from. It sounds, that came from various locations and could be suspect. Was that soil on the berm part of, was it extracted and looked at as part of the archaeological assessment? Because it came from so many different locations in Ridgewood, it would make sense that, like, if they're looking for artifacts, they certainly wouldn't find them there, or it wouldn't be relative to the house. So I'm hoping that the survey, I didn't read it myself, I should have, but I'm hoping that the assessment that they did on the archaeological finds were done closer to the house and maybe in other areas of the property. That was all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Boyd A. Loving, 342 South Irving Street. Tonight was the first opportunity I had to read the December 11th, 2023 letter from the DEP concerning the soil investigation. Quite frankly, I'm alarmed by it for many reasons. One of the primary reasons I'm alarmed by it is that I sat in almost every meeting of the council during that time period regarding soil movement, and never, ever was there any public discussion about the soil coming from many different locations. Absolutely shocked, because I thought all the soil, actually was 6. The letter says there were 6 locations. And I'm quite shocked because I thought all the soil was coming from the Dayton complex on South Broad Street. There's a private house on Windermere Avenue, and the soil came from a private house on Windermere Avenue. Why did we take soil from Bergen Community College? Now, I know it wasn't your house, Lorraine. Why did we take soil from Bergen Community College, from Route 208? I just don't know why we'd have done something like that. It was like we were begging for soil almost, that we would be taking soil for all these places, and To the best of my knowledge, the public was never informed of that because I never heard any discussion at a council meeting about it. And quite frankly, I'm wondering if the council even knew about it, or this was something that was done in the engineering department without knowledge of anybody other than if you were in the engineering department, you knew about it. And I would ask the manager to undertake an investigation to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again. That is, one thing is said in the council chambers, that the soil is coming from a location that everybody knows about, and then you find that something completely different happened, and now we're in this boat that we've got the DEP that's all over us, asking us about all the soil, was proper testing done, and who knows how long this is going to hold up the project at Shedler. The other thing that concerns me is I don't know if any of you read the letter in detail. I just did. And the letter is dated December 11th, 2023. The letter says in the last paragraph that an action plan is due within 60 days. You're not going to award this contract until February 14th, which is after the 60-day period. To me, that speaks that this council is not taking the appropriate action. The last paragraph of the letter specifically states that he wants you to take appropriate action. You need to award this contract prior to February 14th in order to comply with the 60-day mandate. Either that or ask for an extension, and I would hope that you wouldn't ask for an extension. I would hope in good faith you would try to adhere to the demands that have been placed upon you and get this action plan to the state by February 11th, 2024. Thank you.
Ann Loving, 342 South Irving Street. It was really nice to hear the children earlier today, and especially to hear Estelle Shimfke quote Roger Wigand. That was, for those of us that knew him and loved him, that was great. On a completely other subject, as many people are probably aware, the person who you could go to for tech support at the library is no longer there at the library for various reasons. And I ran into a situation about a week ago where my e-reader wasn't working properly, and I got concerned because Charles had always helped me. And I just want you to know that, or anyone who's listening to know, that all you have to do is call the library, and a young gentleman named Elias Rosner is available to help. I got an appointment that same day, and he, is very diligent, he's very thorough, he's very patient with someone like me who's not super tech, and I just wanted to mention that because there hasn't really been an announcement about a replacement for Charles, or at least not one that I've seen. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll go to the remote commenters. First up is Sarab Dani.
Good evening. My name is Saurabh Dani, 390 Bedford Road in Ridgewood. First, I want to mention that my comments are in my personal capacity and I'm not representing any organization. Second, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak here, and thank you for your service. I just wanted to share one observation from today's meeting that I found really interesting, that when the village manager and the chief from Department of the Ridgewood Water, they asked if anybody has any questions. None of the council members had any questions or concerns for bids where we are awarding bids for $250,000, not to exceed $250,000, or not to exceed $500,000, where we are only getting one bidder. There has to be a better process where we are able to secure more than one bids for a town like Ridgewood. Everybody wants to do business with Ridgewood. So if we are getting only one bidder to bid for that large amount, $250,000 or $500,000, it was very interesting to see that nobody had any questions or concerns on that. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarab. Next up, Christina Millian.
Christina Millian, 530 West Saddle River Road. I just wanted to also echo Mr. Loving's comments. I've had an opportunity to review this letter, and frankly, my mouth is completely on the floor. At the end of the letter, it concludes, quote, "Please be advised that Ridgewood Village's documented use of contaminated fill at the Shedler site is in violation of the Solid Waste Management Act," end quote. You know, people walk through Shedler, they walk their pets there every day. Is the town going to be putting up signs so that people are educated that the ground that they might be walking on with the animals that they love could be contaminated? I want to know what visuals the town is going to put up to help educate people on what is going on over there. It is alarming. I know I echo this neighborhood's sentiments that we would like your plan to NJDEP to be escalated as soon as possible. I have children who are 5 years old, and I have pets, and I have a family here that I love, just like numerous people in this neighborhood. And we deserve the data to know what is going on with that soil. Thank you.
There being no more public comments, I would ask for...
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I have a couple comments I'd like to make, if I may. To Cynthia on the archaeological study, I don't believe it extended into the berm area. There was a map that was provided by Grubb. Right now, we are pending SHPO approval, which is required to go into the Phase 2 archaeological study. As that develops, we will again share that on the website like we did with the Phase 1 archaeological study. To Mr. Loving, I share your frustration on this soil issue. You know, I don't think anyone was on this dais when this occurred. I can't speak to you as to what happened under prior administration. I can tell you that whatever testing was done under prior administration was sent to the DEP, and then that letter that you read in the transparency binder was provided to us. We now have an obligation to fulfill what the DEP is requiring us to do. The action plan was conveyed to the DEP by the engineering department at our direction. Soliciting these proposals in order to do the testing is part of that action plan. I don't believe that we'll be out of compliance with any requirement that the DEP has set for us by approving this at our next public meeting. But there's no doubt that based on the DEP's requirements, we need to undertake this. It's frustrating for me to inherit this. It's frustrating for me to have to pay for it. Because I think you're right. I think this should have been done back when it was required to be done. So there are a lot of unanswered questions, many of which I have, and we'll be continuing to correspond with the DEP and the testing firm that we are going to approve at the public meeting coming up. With regard to Ms. Millian, you know, she's aware of this. I know she's had her own correspondence with the DEP on this particular subject. We did meet with representatives out there, myself and the engineering department. They did not indicate to us that there was any threat to public safety. So before that message gets put out, I want to tamp it down because we met with the DEP. They did not indicate to us that any part of that property needed to be shut down, that there needed to be any signage posted. And I don't believe there is any public health concern because they had the opportunity to share that with us if there were. And with regard to the inquiry from Mr. Donnie, we go out and publicly solicit through the local public contracts law bids for various projects. There are times that we get many bids. There are times that we get very few bids. I can tell you with items specifically related to Ridgewood Water, there are limited companies that do some of this specialized work. So it's not uncustomary across the water utilities in northern New Jersey that you may only get one bid. So I don't think that's any lack of effort on behalf of the village or on behalf of Ridgewood Water. I think it's just the nature of some of this specialized work that needs to be done when it comes to undertaking some of those projects at Ridgewood Water.
And just to add to that, I know there have been times when we have reviewed where it's been recommended that we reject that single bid because of one reason or another. Right. But you took the words out of my mouth. I know I've talked to Rich about this before. It's very highly specialized. There's a handful of companies that do it, and I do have some faith because I have seen times when the recommendation has been to us to reject the sill bid and to go back out because we think we can do better or we're uncomfortable with it. Keith, one question, I just want to be clear, because I think I heard you address this. The earlier soil testing that was done by previous administrations, were there any issues then, or was?
No, the testing that
Right.
we received back allowed the village to feel comfortable at the time, I believe, I wasn't here, to take the soil. And you know, SHPO approved it retroactively, from what I gather, the construction of the berm.
Yeah, because I share your concern too. I don't want folks hearing something and taking it out of context. The earlier testing was safe, no indication from the state that there's a problem now in terms of safety, but we are required, and we are going to comply with that to do further testing as again.
I'll also say that I believe that there were some regulations that, at DEP, that may have been changed during that time period. I don't have total clarity on that. I'm not exactly sure the technical nature of that, but I think that may be playing a factor in what we're dealing with here as well. And I just want to mention, you know, I think the councilman is very much on point. We do cost estimates on all of these major infrastructure projects. If we do receive one bid or multiple bids that exceed the cost estimate, that is a trigger for the potential to reject the bid. So there are protections put in place from a purchasing standpoint and from a contracting standpoint to protect the taxpayer if in fact a cost estimate does not match up with the actual bid amount when it's submitted.
So could I just say something too? So one, I was stunned. I thought there were 2 locations, and when this came out, I was unaware. And I want everyone to feel very comfortable that upon finding this out, we've hired a highly technical specialist to help us solve it to the tune of $60,000. So I do agree it was disappointing because prior to this council being assembled, there was an absolute clamoring for information regarding the project. And this is super disappointing, but what I'm proud of is we're letting people know and we're taking good money to assure that it is safe. So I want to thank Keith for doing this, and I just want to say I echo this. I was really surprised. I had no idea. With all the discussion, it was always the Central Business District dirt to Shedler, and I was unaware there were other locations until I read the letter.
And I will say, I am in no way, shape, or form interested in playing the blame game here at all. But I do believe that one of the motivating factors was that the soil was free. You know, I'm not going to say that the due diligence wasn't done at the time with testing, because we have testing letters that bear out that some level of testing was done. But it should be mentioned that, you know, these donations of soil were free, and I'm not sure where that will lead as we do the additional testing that's required from the state.
So I take a motion to adjourn?
Second.
No, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, you stole
Okay,
it from me.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.